What are you gonna be for Halloween?
I'm probably going as Helen of Sparta. My gorgeous natural curls make me the most beautiful woman in Greece.
Lame. She didn't even fight. I'm going as a Spartan warrior. I'm known for my ruthlessness.
You guys are both lame. Sparta may have gone down in history for its strength, but I know that the Spartan Empire would not have succeeded economically, socially, or militarily if it wasn't for the hard work of the Helots.
What are the Helots? I've never even heard of them.
You probably made them up.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. This might take a while.
How the Helots Made Sparta, presented by Ahlina Archibald, Lauren Bush, and Genevieve Husak. Sparta, the infamous military state of Greece known for ruthless destruction and a precise military. But how did they become so powerful, relying solely upon military discipline when a successful empire needed so many more elements?
The answer is simple: the Helots. Without Spartan dominance of the Helot class, Sparta would not have succeeded economically, socially, or militarily.
Sparta came about around 750 BC and was located in southern Greece in an area referred to as Peloponnesus. This area was nearly isolated due to the Gulf of Corinth. Around 725 BC, Sparta invaded the fertile neighboring region of Messenia and conquered its people using its size as an advantage. From then on, the Messenians became known as Helots. There's a theory that the word Helots itself meant the captured. Another theory is that it came from a town called Hellas, which was the origin of some of the first Greek slaves.
The Helots were treated as slaves/serfs who had very little rights, but they could own land and sometimes earn their freedom. They were also owned by the entirety of Sparta, not separate masters. However, the Spartan oligarchy did have the power to assign Helots to tasks.
Spartans were utterly focused on military obedience and dominance. They did not value the arts, intellectual expression, or trade of any kind. So almost all of the roles other than soldiers in this society were handed to the Helots. Most Helots were farmers that were forced to give half of all their crops to the Spartans. The Helots, with the bigger population, had to survive off the rest. Without the production of all this food, the Spartans would have starved. The Helots also had to maintain this land, which was a fertile resource and would have had much value to the other polises if it had been taken over.
Other Helots were domestic servants and did most, if not all, the work pertaining to managing property. They handled cooking, cleaning, events, and anything else their master might ask. They did all of this without pay.
Some Helots were even nurses and doctors or military attendants. All of these services were absolutely free, so Spartans didn't have to use their money for such things and could spend them on themselves. Now, imagine if the Spartans did not have the Helots. They most likely would not have succeeded economically.
So you see, I'm right.
Okay. So the Spartans were a little lazy when it came to the boring stuff, but if push came to shove, they would have gotten it together.
Exactly. Doesn't prove anything.
I know. Keep going.
The Spartiates, or Spartan citizens, lived in a society which strongly valued loyalty to the state and military service. There was also a compulsory military program that started at the age of 7 and lasted until the age of 20 for young Spartan men. It was known as the agoge and taught the strict values that the military state held close. Socially, it taught young Spartans how they were supposed to act and to whom, an example being valuing Sparta over valuing family. Spartans used Helots as an example of how not to act for young boys. The martial commanders would find a Helot and force them to get staggeringly drunk before putting them on display as a lesson to citizens. Without the tremendous amount of disrespect shown towards the Helot class, there would have been more internal struggle among the Spartans. Helots were used as whipping boys for any anger or strife the Spartans felt, because nobody is faulted for killing a Helot. The Helots were treated as inferiors, so the Spartans accepted that they themselves must be the superiors.
Helots also allowed women to get a higher ranking in society than other Greek polises, because when the Helots did all domestic jobs, wives didn't have to. Women instead participated in sports, separate from men, and had enough training to join in the cruelty shown to Helots. If Helots didn't exist in such a bloodthirsty society, would the Spartans really have been able to resist ripping each other to shreds?
Actually, I think I agree with you now. Sparta needed the Helots a little too much for them to be that awesome.
Come on! I don't buy it. Spartans are warriors. I don't need any of that sissy crap.
You think so? Well, you're wrong.
Around 650 BC, the population situation in which Spartans outnumbered Helots reversed. There was nearly 8 Helots for every 1 Spartan. The Helots realized this and started a revolt, known as the Second Messenian War. Surprisingly, the Spartans beat the Helots. However, this close call ultimately drove Sparta into truly becoming a military state. Fearful of another revolt by the Helots, Spartans kill any Helot that seems to be too smart, strong, or is suspected of wanting to revolt. As a method of training, some Spartiates were sent to roam the countryside and kill any Helots they thought wanted to revolt. This gave real-world training to the soldiers and a level of ruthlessness that contributed to their success.
About once a year, the ephors, or magistrates, declared war on Helots so they could be killed at any time without anyone feeling guilty. Soldiers didn't have to use dummies anymore when they could practice on a couple of Helots and accurately kill.
Soldiers also practiced military operations as they first had to find out who the best and smartest Helots were so they could lure them to a dinner, convince them of their freedom, then slaughter them as a group to discourage rebellion. This helped soldiers learn how to quickly solve potential problems in a real-world scenario. Besides being used as training tools, the Helots also fought in lightly armed troops at the command of a Spartan. They were used as a buffer between the warriors and the enemy. If the Helots never revolted, would Sparta have trained itself to be as strong as it was?
So what are you really gonna be for Halloween, Lauren?
I guess I'll just be a Power Ranger again.
There you go. So, what are you gonna be?
I'm a Spartan warrior princess.
But what? No.
Did you see their armor? It's so sparkly.
Banana!